He's been beaten. Again. Every major enemy in Tower of God has handed him a loss. He's been stabbed by people he trusted, discarded by the one person he came to find, and used as a weapon by everyone who was supposed to help him. And yet, every single faction at the top of that tower is afraid of him. Not wary, afraid. The question isn't why he keeps losing. That's the wrong question entirely. The question is, why does losing keep making him more dangerous? What we expect from Manhwa MCS. Here's the deal with Manhwa power fantasies. The genre has a formula and it works. An ordinary guy gets a system, discovers he's secretly the strongest, and proceeds to destroy every obstacle in increasingly spectacular ways. You know the arc. Jinwoo does it. Sid Kaganu does it in a different way. Even characters like Mori Jin eventually become the apex. The satisfaction is in watching competence compound, watching someone get good and then win. Tower of God opens like it might do the same thing. A boy named Bam lives at the bottom of a cave. He has no friends, no family, no name anyone gave him that meant anything. Then a girl named Rachel comes to him, and for the first time in his life he has a reason to exist. When she leaves to climb the tower, he follows her. He's a nobody. He has no Shinsu control, no knowledge of the tower's rules, no special ability that anyone can identify. He shouldn't be able to get through the first floor. But something happens in that first test that the show doesn't fully explain for a very long time. Something that makes a specific type of person, the rankers, the administrators, the ancient powers at the top, immediately start watching him. We'll come back to what that is. Because first, we need to understand what Bam is being compared against. See, most Manhwa protagonists are dangerous because they are strong. Bam is dangerous for a completely different reason. And that difference is the whole thesis of this video. The loss record. What actually happens to Bam? Let me just run through it. The hits Bam takes, not metaphorically, literally. Rachel pushes him off a platform and leaves him to die. The person he followed into the tower. The person his entire existence was organized around. Gone. And the show doesn't soften it. He drops into the water while she watches. He survives. He always survives. But that's not the same as winning. In the workshop battle arc, Bam gets trapped and used as a test subject. He spends months in isolation being experimented on. When he comes back, he's different, not empowered in the clean way that other MCs get empowered. He's scarred. He comes back carrying the weight of what was done to him in a way you can feel in every panel. He fights Karaka and loses the first time. He fights Calivan and gets destroyed to the point where the people around him have to sacrifice themselves just to keep him alive. He loses teammates. He loses trust. He loses, repeatedly, the version of himself he was before the last fight. And here is where most Manhwa would pivot into a training arc and a comeback. Bam does the training arc. He does come back. But he doesn't come back angry in the way the genre expects. He comes back different in a way that none of his enemies have a framework for. And I want to explain exactly what that means. But first, I need to make a point about what kind of threat the tower actually fears. What the tower is and why that matters. Tower of God is not a story about a boy climbing a tower. It is a story about a closed system that has convinced everyone inside it that the system is the point. The tower has rules, administrators who enforce those rules. A king, Zahard, at the top, who made a deal with those administrators that gave him immortality and power in exchange for locking the tower's ceiling permanently. Nobody climbs past a certain point. Nobody challenges the structure. The whole architecture of the tower exists to maintain itself. The rankers fight, the regulars climb, the families compete. But everything happens inside a framework that Zahard and the administrators built to never be threatened. Every powerful person in the tower is dangerous in a way the tower can account for. They want to climb higher. They want more power within the system. They fight, they scheme, they kill, and none of it threatens the tower itself because the tower is designed to absorb conflict, to make conflict part of the system. And then Bam shows up. What makes Bam uniquely terrifying to the tower is not that he's strong, it's that his motivations are outside the system's logic entirely. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want immortality. He doesn't want to reach the top and take Zahard's throne. Every character who has threatened the tower before has wanted something the tower could offer. Bam's goal, and this is what the first floor administrator sees immediately, is a person. And the tower cannot negotiate with that. You cannot bribe someone whose entire motivation is love for a specific human being. But even that isn't the deepest reason the tower fears him. There's something about Bam's nature, something that SIU has been building since Chapter 1, that makes him fundamentally different from anything the tower has encountered. I'll get to it. But we need to talk about the loss pattern first, because it's not random. Here's what I noticed reading Tower of God carefully. Bam doesn't just lose fights. He loses them in specific ways. And when you look at what happens after each loss, you start to see a pattern that I don't think is accidental. Every time Bam loses, he absorbs something from the person who beat him. Not literally, not in the system upgrade sense where you defeat a monster and get its skill. Emotionally, philosophically. He watches how the person who broke him thinks, and he integrates it. Rak doesn't beat him in a fight. But Rak's blunt, uncomplicated loyalty shifts how Bam understands companionship. Khun's strategic mind doesn't overpower Bam, but watching Khun work, failing to keep up, eventually teaches Bam a kind of patience in conflict. The people who hurt him most, Rachel, Caliban, force him into confrontations with questions the tower does not want anyone asking. Why is the tower structured the way it is? Who decided? Was it ever fair? Most protagonists get stronger by defeating enemies. Bam gets more dangerous by understanding them. This sounds nice, but the practical implication is genuinely frightening for the tower's establishment. Bam is building a mental model of every power structure he encounters, and he's doing it from the position of someone who has nothing to protect within the system. He doesn't have a family legacy like Khun. He doesn't have a race to defend like Rak. He has no social position to preserve. That makes him impossible to threaten. You cannot leverage someone who has already lost everything that the system values. And here's what that first floor test was registering. What made the administrator freeze? Bam walked into the tower with zero background in the tower's rules, zero investment in the tower's prizes, and he passed the test anyway. Not because he was strong, because he would not stop. The tower systems are designed to break people through attrition. Bam doesn't attrit. The Shinsu problem. Why his power makes no sense. We need to talk about Shinsu. Shinsu is the fundamental substance of the tower, a kind of energy that regulars learn to manipulate as they climb. Every person in the tower has Shinsu compatibility. You're born with it. It can be trained, expanded, refined, but everyone operates within a fixed maximum based on their nature and their contracts with administrators. Panel showing Shinsu flow visualized. Bam has no fixed maximum. This isn't a minor detail. It's existentially alarming for the tower's entire framework. The administrators grant ignition abilities, contracts, power. This is how the tower maintains control. Everyone's power is licensed. Everyone's capacity is bounded by deals they've made with the entities who run the system. Bam absorbs Shinsu techniques, the way other characters might learn to swing a sword better. He watches a technique once and begins integrating it. He has Shinsu affinities that shouldn't coexist in one person. When the tower's powers try to cap him, they find there's no ceiling to cap him at. This is the part that I think readers miss because they're watching it happen in real time across hundreds of chapters. Step back and look at it whole. The tower is a system built on the premise that power has limits, and those limits are controlled by the tower itself. Bam is a person for whom that premise does not apply. SIU hints at why, at what Bam actually is, and it connects to something much older than Zahard, something that predates the tower's current structure entirely. I'm going to get into that. But first, let me make the character argument because I think the mythology can distract from what makes Bam work as a protagonist. Why Bam works. The character argument. Tower of God is, at its core, a story about someone trying to understand why they were abandoned. Rachel abandons Bam. That wound runs under every arc in the series. Every time Bam encounters a person who uses others as tools, Jihad, FUG, Caliban's ideology of strength as justification, he's encountering a version of Rachel's logic. The logic that says, some people matter, some people are means to an end, and you are the latter. And Bam's response to that logic, across hundreds of chapters of getting beaten, used, manipulated, is consistent and completely unreasonable, and somehow more powerful than any technique he could develop. He refuses to accept it, not through rage, not through revenge. He refuses it the way you refuse a premise in an argument, by just not agreeing, by continuing to treat the people around him as people, even after they've shown him they won't do the same even when it costs him, even when it's tactically stupid. This is why he's dangerous in a way that the tower cannot model. The tower's game theory assumes everyone is eventually optimizing for something the tower provides. Bam keeps playing a different game, and the characters around him, Kuhn, Rack, and Dorsey, who started the series as people fully invested in the tower's logic, start playing his game instead. That's the contagion. That's what Zahard should be afraid of. Not Bam's Shinsu capacity, not his ability to absorb techniques. The fact that he changes the motivation structure of everyone around him. One by one, people who were climbing the tower for tower reasons start climbing it for Bam reasons. An army is dangerous. An army that fights for something the enemy cannot take away is terrifying. The mythology. Pay off. What Bam actually is. Now, what Bam actually is. SIU has been careful with this. The full answer isn't spelled out, and the manhwa is ongoing, so I'll tell you what we know without speculation padding it. The tower was not always closed. Before Zahard made his deal with the administrators, people could climb to the top. There was something at the top, something the administrators referred to obliquely, that Zahard didn't want anyone reaching. The deal he struck sealed the tower, made himself king, made the administrator-granted power system the only path forward. The irregular designation, the category Bam falls into, means someone who entered the tower without being chosen by it. The tower's doors didn't open for them, they opened the door themselves. Most irregulars are flukes, accidents. But the tower's oldest entities, the ones who predate Zahard, react to Bam with something more than surprise. They react like people recognizing something they thought was gone. What we're watching, across hundreds of chapters, might be the tower encountering the first genuine challenger to its foundational logic. Not someone trying to become the new king, but someone who, by his very nature, embodies the possibility that the tower doesn't have to work this way. That's not a power fantasy. That's something older and more literary. It's the story of an institution being confronted by a person who never agreed to its terms. Most manhwa give you a protagonist who gets strong enough to win. Tower of God is giving you something weirder and, I'd argue, more interesting. A protagonist who is most dangerous precisely because the standard metrics of danger don't apply to him. He doesn't win through superior power, he wins by being a variable the system was never designed to handle. He's not unbeatable. He loses constantly. but every loss reshapes him into something the tower has less and less ability to predict. That's what a literature professor would call an unreliable protagonist. Not because you can't trust him, because the story keeps refusing to let him be categorized. And in a genre defined by categories, S-rank, God tier, system user, a character who doesn't fit is the most dangerous thing there is. If you haven't read Tower of God and this made you want to, I've linked the start point in the description. Skip the 2011 chapters for now. The art gets significantly better by Season 2. If you're already reading it and you disagree with my read on Bam, I genuinely want to hear it. Tell me in the comments which arc you think defines him best. And if you want to see the same analysis applied to Kim Dokya from ORV, who is a completely different kind of dangerous protagonist, that video is already on this channel. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one.